Getting close, folks, to the end of the first 100 days of the Trump administration. This is now week 13 that we are wrapping up. It's a week that saw moves both on the domestic and foreign policy fronts and some pretty strong words from the White House along the way. Let's take a look.
Drawing red lines hasn't really worked in the past. He holds his cards close to the vest.
Strategic patience has been the approach of the last American administration and beyond. The era of strategic patience is over.
I don't want to telegraph what I'm doing or what I'm thinking. I'm not like other administrations.
Well, you're binge-watching Mad Men on Netflix. TSA is stopping an actual Mad Men.
This bill will extend and improve the Veterans Choice Program so that more veterans can see the doctor of their choice. You got it? The doctor of their choice.
This afternoon, there was some word that Obamacare repeal might be revived inside the 100-day mark. True?
Well, it's always a potential.
With your backs against the wall and the pundits, good old pundits, boy, they're wrong a lot, aren't they?
Build a wall and physical barrier, see-through wall, depending on the conditions.
We'll be focusing on the top priorities first. That's what we're going to do.
We are very happy to have Aya back home, and it's a great honor to have her in the Oval Office with her brother.
That was a nice way to finish things up. Chris Stirewalt, Fox News politics editor. Kristen Soltis-Anderson is Washington Examiner columnist and Republican pollster. Richard Fowler is nationally syndicated radio show host and a Fox News contributor. Welcome to everybody. So that's the week that was, you guys. So let's take a look at what you thought about it and how the president sort of stacks up in your grade book. Kristen, let me start with you.
I gave President Trump a C for this week, bearing in mind that C merely means average. It's not a bad grade. This was kind of a mixed week. There were some things that went pretty well for the White House. The media, all in the weeks leading up to the White House Easter egg roll, had been giving them a hard time. It went fine. Very lovely moment. You had the Patriots come visit the White House. That went fine, despite a lot of media criticism that, oh, were players not going to show up? These things turned out great. And you also had this wonderful moment where you have an American, you have the prisoner being released from Egypt. On the other hand, I think the situation with North Korea is very worrisome. And it speaks to a bigger problem where in both the State Department, Defense Department, there are a lot of positions that are left unfilled. There's not a lot of clarity about what America's strategy or policy is. And so when you have something like an American aircraft carrier that one department says is headed toward North Korea, the Korean Peninsula, and yet it actually turns out they're headed to the Indian Ocean, that's not a great moment. And so that's why I wind up giving the president a C for this week. Wow.
Yeah, that was not a great moment. Richard, let's get your... Kristen hasn't heard about grade inflation. I went to high school when there was no grade inflation, but let me tell you, there's a lot of it going around, but it's not going around in Kristen's grade book. Richard, what do you think?
I don't believe in grade inflation either, Martha.
No,
so I gave the president a C-. And basically, the C- comes because of one particular reason. What we heard late this week was the president sort of saying that we're going to get health care done next week. And I think he's letting the pressure of the first 100 days get in the way of actually passing a really good bill or fixing the Affordable Care Act, right? And so I think this president has a huge challenge when it comes to bringing the GOP conference together, getting the Tuesday group, which is the more moderate group, together with the Freedom Caucus, who I think they think toasters fly, right? Getting them together to come up with a health care bill that actually works. And, you know, so it's going to take longer than 8 days. It's just not going to happen. It's going to take, I mean, it took Obama a couple hundred days to get the Affordable Care Act. I think the president should take a couple hundred days as well to make sure he gets the fixes to the Affordable Care Act correct.
It goes along with the Washington theme. Well, we need more time. Take as long as you want. We've had 7 years, Chris Stirewalt, to work on this problem, but yet there's no way we can possibly have this paper turned in on time. Sir.
I don't know about flying toasters, but I do want to see about that. I think, first of all, that the president should have been docked points for the Patriots welcome because everybody knows that they're evil.
Oh, let's not go there, my friend. You know that you are dealing with a Patriots fan in one Martha MacCallum.
I am not going to be unjust, and I'm not going to punish him for bad judgment in sports teams. I will say that overlooked in all of this discussion was that he faced a make-or-break test on Tuesday. If the Republicans would have lost outright in that congressional election down in Atlanta, his agenda, which right now is running on fumes, would be over, would be dead. He would not have been able to find any Republicans on Capitol Hill that wanted to work with him on anything if they would have lost outright in that election. He won. The Republicans won. It was close. It was scary for them, but they won. Now, I think Richard's 100% right, which is the idea that using the arbitrary benchmark, because as we know, sometimes things that are supposed to last 100 days last longer than 100 days. Sometimes that happens.
There's a long story behind that.
There's a long story behind that. But for the president to be whipsawed into acting out in this way for the final week, that's maybe not a good idea. But his agenda is alive this week, and he's okay, and he gets a B.
A B from Mr. Stirewalt, despite the fact that the wonderful 5-time winning champions, New England Patriots, made their visit at the White House. And because we were there to interview Sean Spicer that day, yours truly also got to watch that, which was, also a great moment. A great moment in the first 100 days. So, Richard, what are you looking for next week?
Next week's going to be an interesting week, right? I mean, we'll see what happens. Congress comes back to town. We'll see if he can actually get some language on the health care bill done.
Because they've been on vacation for 2 weeks, so I just want to point that out. Go ahead.
They've been on vacation for 2 weeks, but I think Chris is right, and I think there's some historical context, right? So the 100 days was created during FDR, this idea that he would send a bill up to Congress a Monday morning, and by Monday night he would have it back on his desk signed. What President Trump, the mistake President Trump made when he sort of came into office is he accepted the 100-day notion that exists in Washington, D.C. If he really wanted to drain the swamp...
Everybody does that. You can't possibly avoid it, and you have to have some...
He's supposed to be a different guy and a different president.
Kristen, really quick thought. I got about 20 seconds as you look to next week. Go ahead.
I would much rather this president put forward policies that are going to work rather than ones that meet some kind of an arbitrary deadline. But next week is going to be big, not just because he says he's going to put tax reform on the table next week. So that's another agenda item coming up that has been much anticipated by the markets, by others out there. So I think next week is going to be a big make-or-break week.
I wish you guys were my teachers, because apparently there's no deadline to turn the paper in. So I'm good with that. Thanks, you guys. Thank you so much to all of you.